Welcome everyone, it's the Crypto Lark. Today, we're going to be talking about Tezos, the blockchain to formalize blockchain governance. Before we get into what Tezos is doing, a massive thank you to all of you for being part of the cryptocurrency community. Your support makes all the difference, so thank you so much for being here and being part of the journey. And you do have to remember, this is not financial advice. This is just a dude talking about cryptocurrencies on the internet. Let's go ahead and jump into what Tezos is and what they want to do. Essentially, Tezos is a transparent, decentralized, highly secure, smart contract-enabled dApp platform. Quite similar to Ethereum in a lot of its overall features. However, there is a big focus on formal verifications. Essentially, they want to have smart contracts which can avoid bugs via mathematically provable code. The key value proposition of Tezos is self-evolving governance to avoid situations like the Bitcoin forks that we've been seeing or the Ethereum DAO situation, as well as, of course, bringing in proof of stake to avoid that undue miner influence. While Tezos was not the first blockchain, they want to become the last blockchain. Just a big goal there, casually. The idea of Tezos as an evolutionary blockchain is quite interesting and is really its key value proposition. Tezos wants to be a self-governing ledger. The key innovation is that rule changes and additions happening in Tezos will be decided by the community. Developers can propose upgrades and basically attach an invoice to that proposed upgrade, and then the community gets to decide whether or not they would like to approve that. The voting process, well, of course, being time-consuming, will also be bringing in that slowness to help the deliberation process and hopefully drive high user engagement. An important note here to make is that the Tezos Foundation is reserving the right to veto for the first 12 months. So essentially, we do have the first year in a centralized control, unfortunately, but after that 12 months is up, the Tezos Foundation will be taking a step back from interfering in the process. Now, having a high user engagement is great. And of course, the great part here is that you can really have an impact on the decentralization of maintaining the blockchain away from a core group of developers. However, I would not be surprised if we did see some core developer groups arising within the Tezos ecosystem. However, anyone will be able to make a proposal about upgrades or changes to the Tezos protocol. Overall, the idea of a self-governing chain sounds rather simple, but this can actually be incredibly powerful if the community can drive it in the right direction. Hopefully, of course, we don't end up with some kind of Homer Simpson-esque blockchain fantasy, but time will tell. Currently, we are on the beta net for Tezos, and we're clocking in around 40 transactions per second, which is not that impressive in the grand scheme of things, although we do have Ethereum on 15 transactions per second at the moment. We have a lot of other blockchains which are way, way faster than that, currently, of course. Michelson is the language of choice chosen for its correctness with formal verifications in mind, once again trying to improve on the problems that Ethereum's solidity has faced, for example, and some of the bugs that have come out in Ethereum smart contracts. There has been discussion about bringing in ZK snarks. Of course, perhaps in the end, ZK Starks, a future iteration of those privacy features, may be what get implemented, but this is all things that need to be decided on by the community. Tezos is working on a delegated proof of stake model. Miners, or stakers, are called bakers in the Tezos ecosystem. You need to have 10,000 Tezos tokens plus a bond to run one of these delegate nodes. Returns are currently looking at around 5% annually. Tezos is essentially an inflationary cryptocurrency. While that 5% number is what we are looking at the moment, that of course can be changed by the community as time goes on. If you do not have 10,000 Tezos, you can always bake with others, because hey, why bake alone when you can bake with friends? Many, however, are waiting to get hardware options though before they unlock their tokens. It'll be nice to see some good, solid hardware options coming for Tezos, but a lot of blockchains suffer with this, particularly at the start of their journey. It can be quite hard to get ledger integration right off the bat. The Tezos token exists to power smart contracts, to give voting rights, compensate developers, and of course incentivize the bakers for securing the network. Tezos has been primarily pushed forward by the Brightmans, Arthur and Kathleen. Now, Arthur is ex-Wall Street with a background in computer science, mathematics, and economics, and Kathleen is formerly of the R3 Blockchain Consortium. There have also been some very famous investors into Tezos. For example, Tim Draper and the Winklevoss twins are also reportedly heavily staked into Tezos. There has been a lot of drama around Tezos. This was an ICO that took place nearly a year ago. Multiple class action lawsuits. The Tezos Foundation board had to resign after a protracted battle with the Brightmans. However, the legal issues have largely been resolved, and then came a KYC, or a Know Your Customer process, 1 year after the ICO happened. This made many community members very upset. But KYC is KYC, and this drama is not actually so bad. Some people actually saw this in a positive light, saying that this shows the seriousness of the project. Even though people didn't sign up for having to go through a KYC process, it is what happened. And a lot of the drama that has happened will be forgotten in time as the project continues to move forward. What I find more disconcerting is the lack of marketing and really the lack of communication that the Tezos Foundation and the Brightmans have had with the community. Now, I know that there was probably advice from their lawyers to not say very much during the legal proceedings, but now that we have a beta net up and running, we really need to see Tezos pushing much more to get their message out there. We look, for example, at EOS or Cardano and the communities they've been able to start, and the hype around those projects and the communication of those projects with their communities. This is the direction Tezos needs to go in terms of building that community out and building that community trust, which has actually been quite eroded with all of the situations that have been happening, the slow token release and the legal battles and all these different things. In fact, many of their social channels just went dark for months on end. Of course, there are some people in the camp who say that, well, they're just being anti-hype, they're busy building the tech. There is certainly a bit of that argument going on here, but the fact remains they do need to get their message out. The real question, of course, is, has too much damage been done to the community to recover? I don't think so, but it certainly has done Tezos no favors, not to mention that all of these delays have actually given their competitors quite the edge in that intervening year that it's taken to get over the legal battles and to get a betanet launched. In terms of creating a digital commonwealth, the competition in this space is actually massive and growing all the time. In terms of governance, we see EOS and Cardano making big moves in experimental governance. Not to mention all the strides being made in sharding and secret contracts and all kinds of other technological developments that other blockchains are innovating. However, most of the technical criticisms that we can point towards Tezos actually can very easily be undone because of the key focus of Tezos to be easily upgradable, to be easily adaptable, for the community to say, hey, I saw what EOS is doing, let's do that. Or hey, I saw what Quark Chain is doing, let's do that. Let's propose it, let's put that forward. And so when you look at that, it becomes an interesting conversation. Also, there is no real development roadmap for Tezos because the community needs to decide where they want to go. I really hope that the Tezos chain will not fall victim to voter apathy. I understand why there's voter apathy for national elections. Hopefully, that will not transpire across to blockchain voting because Tezos, like so many cryptocurrencies, will live or die based on how involved the community is. Currently, Tezos has a good-sized war chest of funds. They had a massive ICO raising a few $100 million. Not to mention, of course, the Tezos tokens that will be awarded to Kathleen and Arthur, and the annual inflation that can be used to incentivize developers. But all the other projects are really well funded too. EOS had a $4 billion ICO. Not to mention that a lot of other key projects have DAOs and all these certain things put into their chains. So without a doubt, we need to see some serious development coming to Tezos. Now, we have had a few projects put their hands up and say, hey, I would like to build on Tezos, but these are some very mediocre projects and certainly don't hit that top tier status like we see projects that are building on EOS, projects that are building on Wanchain and Zilliqa and Quark Chain. They have some really top tier stuff coming to their chains. Tezos needs to start making those top tier ICO announcements that are going to be building on Tezos, at least here in the near future. Currently, we have very, very low liquidity for Tezos, only being listed on a couple of exchanges, which is quite crazy for a top 20 cryptocurrency. Hashtag when Binance. These big exchanges are definitely needed to help investors get liquidity and also to help get the message of Tezos out to investors who might not know that much about it yet. Where to from here? Is Tezos going to pull a Cardano and just blast right to the top? Or will we see better buying opportunities arising in the near future as the post-listing hype starts to die down a little bit? The idea of experimental governments on the blockchain is very intriguing to me. If the community can come together, then Tezos may really be destined for some amazing success as it becomes a self-evolving, self-governing, adaptable blockchain. But the competition in the space is very serious at the moment, so time will tell if Tezos' experiment in governance will be successful or not. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to watch my Tezos review. Let me know what you think about Tezos down below in the comment section. Join the community over on Twitter where I share further insights into the crypto space. Long live the blockchain, and peace out till next time.